From Live Consulting, this is Cannabis Business Minds with your hosts, Kristen Yoder and Simone Simaluka-Radzins.
All right, on this episode of Cannabis Business Minds, we have Jackie McGowan on the show. You are incredible. I'm so happy to re-interview you because the first one didn't work. It's good that we've got Kristen on board as co-host so we can dive into what you've been working on.
It's so great to be here.
Yes, Jackie is the founder of Band-Aid Consulting. Not Band-Aid, Band-Aid.
Band-Aid.
Band-Aid because you live and breathe California bands. Where is the bands going on in the cities, in the counties, who banned what? Now, I mean, I know I've worked with you before. I see you wake up and you spend 2 hours on your laptop going through all of the news.
Correct.
So,
walk us through what got you here today. I know, like, from when you started the band group, but even before that, like,
Sure.
Who are you?
yes.
So, I'm a recovering stockbroker. I worked on Wall Street for 18 years, and I came back to California, which is where I grew up, 3 years ago, and my medicine was not working. So modern medicine had failed me. My father, who has been a stoner my whole life, was putting major pressure on me to try marijuana for my ailment. And I thought he was crazy, and I was very reluctant. And I finally caved, not thinking that it was going to work for me, but just to get him off my back, I caved. And, I had tremendous success with it. But with that success, I found that there were problems in the legal, quasi-legal environment and CBD shortages. And I was on waiting lists a couple times a year. And when I went on these waiting lists, I knew I was on these waiting lists with children. So when my name would get called, I would have to make a decision if I was going to stock up on my medicine and possibly harm a child.
Oh, wow.
Right? Yeah,
That's
because
tough.
I was in a support group with a lot of mothers of really sick children at Harborside Health Center in Oakland. So I knew that we were on the same waiting list. And, that did not sit right with me. And I dove in trying to figure out why my medicine was running out of stock. Why were people being raided? Why wasn't there a consistent supply available? And that just led me to become obsessed with regulations. So after the passage of the Medical Cannabis Regulations and Safety Act in October of 2015, that November, I started, my Google email alerts had started to pick up, a lot of bans across the state, and I didn't really realize what was going on. So I decided to expand on my Google email alerts, and that brought in my Wall Street background. I was trying to create a marijuana Bloomberg, a one-stop shop for all of my marijuana news needs. So I set up 540 Google email alerts, one for every city and county in the state. And on January 1st, I started the group simply as a way to dump all this information that I was seeing.
Yeah.
And I knew that towards the end of 2015, or 2016. No, 2015.
These years are getting
I know, right?
I know.
Towards the end of 2015, there was a 2-week break where local governments were, on holiday vacation. So I knew that at the beginning of the year, we were about to get massacred based on what I was picking up in the news. So I started the group and just started dumping all of this information, and the group became this little command center, and I was linking up people in different parts of the state that I had never met and saying, go meet them and go to this, and it's the first reading or second reading and urgency ordinance, and I had to learn the difference of all of that. I didn't know. And so then I was creating these activist toolkits and telling them, go to your local government, give them this letter, let them know that AB 21 has been introduced and it should slow it down. Well, it didn't slow down. I really thought when I created the group that I was creating something that was just going to be like a 2 or 3 month job, and I haven't stopped. So
No, not in California.
after we got through the MRSA bans, then the Prop 64 ban started, and the Prop 64 ban started before Prop 64 even passed.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So
Everyone was afraid.
Yeah, and then even before that, we had what we called Taxapalooza. We dubbed the MRSA bans as Banapalooza, and then we got hit with Taxapalooza, and we had some, I believe, like 40 roughly 40 tax measures that were on the ballot in different jurisdictions across the state, the November 8th ballot. And so then, now I've been still tracking the Prop 64 bans and trying to figure out, who's the most egregious. And I work with the Drug Policy Alliance, letting them know what I'm seeing and who should be sued. And we should see a lawsuit really soon in Fontana.
Oh, really?
Because Fontana wants to disallow a felon from growing 6 plants.
And
so
you
if you're a
can't do that.
drug convicted felon, they're not going to give you a permit. They did come down on their permit fee, but even that may be challenged in court.
Wait, you need a permit to grow 6 plants? I thought that's what Prop 64, besides all of the business aspects,
allows us to do.
Was to allow without a permit. Like that, to me,
that's
that
like
sounds,
our right as
that
California
sounds
citizens.
unconstitutional to require us to register with the city to have our right to grow.
That's happening.
Can you imagine?
Right now?
That's happening in several parts of the state.
It doesn't surprise me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, California, 58 counties, 400 something cities. You'll never be done.
Yeah.
I know.
Every week someone is.
But there's software that will help you. We were just talking, which you were on that podcast, adherence.
Yeah.
Cannaregs.
Cannaregs.
Like it seems, is that like helping you so much?
Cannaregs took so much off my shoulders and helped me breathe again.
Oh God, that's
I don't have to sift through the news to figure out what's going on. I'm able to see that there's 40 to 50 municipalities meeting on marijuana specific agenda items every week.
Oh,
and then
extremely
I take Cannaregs software, or I take their data and I analyze their data. So I keep a spreadsheet of everything that's going on, and then I'm in certain columns talking about whether they're regulating or if they're banning, and if they are regulating, what they're regulating and where they're at in the conversation. So.
Yeah, well, that's, I think, the pivotal thing. So I want to talk about your consulting firm, and then I want to go into the difference in MCRSA bans and then Prop 64 bans, because I don't really know, and if I feel like we try to stay up to date, so if we don't know, probably you are the goddess
you
of knowledge.
Obviously know.
We
don't even know what we don't know.
Exactly.
And I personally, having been in the LA cannabis drama with the city council for 11 years. They finally passed Measure M.
Well, that's
what
good
about
for us.
Prop D? What about pre-ICO? It's the same thing over and over, and it killed my spirit. So I commend you for still fighting when it seems like a insurmountable amount of regulation to stay on top of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was your question?
Well, talk to us quickly about MCRSA bans and then Prop 64 bans and like the percentage. Like we've got 58 counties out here in California. We know Los Angeles just passed something for MCRSA, but through your expertise and knowledge with your consulting firm and with what you're doing, can you give us some insight?
Yeah, so an article came out in Leafly yesterday or the day before, and the CCIA was quoted as saying that there were 204 cities that had banned marijuana and 17 counties. I don't agree with that, but I think that the discrepancy is in the definition of a ban. They may be considering a city regulating because they're allowing 6 plants. I don't.
No,
it's our constitutional right.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's our freedom of a Californian.
Right, but so back to your Prop 64 allowance. It is our constitutional right to grow 6 plants. However, Prop 64 allowed local governments to enact reasonable regulations. So now it's going to take a court challenge in order to define what reasonable regulations are.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work, obviously, that has to be done on both MCRSA and Prop 64.
Right. And how those are going to be married.
And
I think
wonder,
that's the biggest thing.
It seems like Prop 64 is the thing that all the counties are acting on. It doesn't seem like I hear MCRSA being brought up in these bans.
That's because they had banned everything already in MRSA. And when I got done counting the bans, the MRSA bans, it was pretty much 90% of the state had banned. So it's kind of where we sit right now. 10% have enacted regulations, and another 10% are moving towards enacting
They're all in the Bay,
regulations.
the ones.
So we are seeing
Wow.
In the last 2 weeks, I have seen so much movement in territories that I didn't see coming at all. And that's thanks to Cannaregs.
I was gonna say, we interviewed, and that interview, like the production, the video, or the whatever, it didn't go well to air. But I remember asking that same question, and it was almost, 8 months ago? Or it seems like maybe even a year ago, and it was 90% then. So we're talking over we're talking, just to give people an idea, like, these bans and this, like, the process working with regulatory bodies is not something that's going to be done overnight.
No, but the difference in the last time that we talked and now is that another 10% are moving towards regulating.
Yeah.
However, San Diego County moved backwards just a couple days ago, and new supervisors took their seats, and they're not having the marijuana, and they're not respecting the will of the people. They voted for Prop 64 there. And so they are banning dispensaries. However, what's really interesting is that they're giving them 5 years, 5 years to shut down in order to recoup their losses. That sets precedents for, other territories that begin regulating and then, do a bait and switch. We're going through that in Calaveras County right now.
Oh, really?
Where, 800 and something commercial farmers came forward, paid their fees, and now they're trying to use their own fees to shut them down.
So I remember reading that San Diego is the first ones to enact Prop 64 regulations, and I'm like, that sounds very strange.
That's the city.
Yes.
Oh, so
and then you hear San Diego County is banning everything, and then you hear the same in LA, where LA County sheriffs they want to spend $25 million to ban all unincorporated businesses in the cannabis industry.
They want to shut them all down and then enact regulations, and it should be done in a different way, I think. But I think there's an unknown force that is probably creating some obstacles towards implementation right now, and that's what I'm hearing from somebody at LEAP, which is Law Enforcement Against Prohibition.
Oh.
And my source at LEAP says that the Sheriff's Association has come out and stated that they are not going to implement Prop 64. And so if that's true, that could be why we're starting to see some big pushback,
And what does that mean?
That means, so I'll give you a situation. Coachella is moving forward with regulations, and they have a pile of permits that the last stage requires a sheriff's signature on, and the county sheriff won't sign off on them.
Are you kidding
they
me?
realize that
That's what
if
I'm
they
hearing.
don't sign off on this, they don't get that piece of that $1 billion tax money for enforcement? Like, they're basically being like, I don't need any money,
I guess
we don't need any money.
I maybe we're
Right?
preaching to the choir, but this is just insane to me that from the sheer perspective of giving access to people for medicine, right? And then, like, okay, the Prop 64 stuff, but allowing basic rights, and it's tax revenue more than anything. We're such like a deficit-driven economy in California, and we've got
money.
the potential. That's insanity to me.
It's like the city of Coalinga was $3.6 million in debt before they sold their abandoned prison to Ocean Grown Extracts for $4.1 million. Now they're, and thank God they enticed enough businesses to come in, because just right now they're in the process of shutting down a Kmart, which is, I think, 200 jobs for that city, which is big. So the marijuana industry can't get going there quick enough. However, then you've got the county sheriff puffing her chest up, Mims, to the feds, saying, we will take down the rec market for you. In fact, we'll help you take down the medical market too.
And how are you going to afford to do that without enforcement tax money?
Okay,
They couldn't possibly steal enough, from like shutting people down. That couldn't net them enough money to not want to I don't understand.
Okay, I hate talking about politics. Clearly, this is like completely political.
Yeah.
Curious though, like a lot of these more deprived counties, like I was presenting in front of California City with a client, and one of the things that they asked us at the very end is like, how do you envision this will help us in the long run? And I was like, geez, a coffee shop will be on Main Street. I can imagine just the growth when all of this would be able to happen. I'm curious as this relates to the federal government and as it relates to Sessions, and it relates to now talking about Democrats and Republicans, and I voted for Trump, and those smaller cities in California have tended to lean more on the conservative aspect. Is that the connect? Could it be?
For
like, do you
the
see
record,
where I'm going?
Simone did not vote for Trump.
Oh no.
It was like an example.
Yeah.
You just said like
Trump
I voted for Trump.
Oh no, I didn't vote for Trump.
No, exactly.
That has
Trump
made
and
me
Sessions,
very depressed.
Trump and
this whole
Sessions
issue.
have given the prohibitionists another leg to stand on. Instead of standing
yes.
down after Prop 64 passed, they're now saying it's federally illegal. They're
Saber
accusing
rattling,
local
really.
governments of being involved with RICO because they're taking money from the marijuana industry.
Wow.
Yeah, money laundering and
Insane.
it is. It's totally insane. So, but it's the good news is I was talking to one of the lead lobbyists at the Capitol, and the strategy probably going forward into 2018 is going to be to replace some of these sheriffs.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what we need to do. We need to, I don't know that there's much that we can do at the federal level. I know that there's AB 1575 that's been introduced. But even if that were, to make it onto the governor's desk, it's not likely that the governor would sign that because that would just, kick off a whole other slew of problems.
It seems like if we want to keep the feds out, we have to regulate ourselves, or we're leaving a big hole for the feds to come in and be like, this is totally illegal. We were just talking.
Yep.
I've not heard of any, and maybe they've happened, we just don't know about it, federal raids in Colorado, Washington, or Oregon.
They're starting.
They are starting.
They're starting,
Oh,
but they're
wow.
assisting local government, and it's in order to shut down the guys that are distributing out of state.
Okay.
So
they're
Cool,
breaking
Memo.
federal law
correct.
in that they're doing interstate transportation distribution.
Now, and that's how I read the tea leaves. I've monitored what Sessions is saying very closely.
Me too.
I think he has a personal problem with recreational, but I don't think that he's going to go after the regulated market, whether it's medical or recreational. I think he's going after interstate commerce. And who's the number one offender?
California.
Yeah.
And we're the largest cannabis market.
Yeah.
And we're not regulated.
So, I would
it's
definitely...
curious.
I could see them coming in just to take down the people that are shipping it out of state.
Yeah.
It's the big players.
Well, but we just had an episode on compliance. Like, I used to do fraud investigations. It's illegal. You got to know what you're playing with, right? And that's going to be interesting to see what it's going to shake down and the full thing of pricing, demand, and all of that. But if it's truly raids that are for businesses that are completely violating federal law, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
that's fine. But if it goes into, I'm applying, because I was really worried for like a lot of our Oregon clients, like it is an adult use market. Washington, there is no medical program. So that's interesting, your take that it's like, okay, it's more of the regulation.
Exactly.
But I still, if I had my way,
Yeah.
I would not want to implement Prop 64 until we saw until we have a better idea of what Sessions is going to do, until we have a statement from Trump that he's going to respect states' rights.
Well, what about MCRSA?
I would rather just move forward with that. And
Right?
put Prop 64 on a
Because
shelf.
we are medical.
Yeah.
I'm totally
Yeah, we
for
were talking
that.
about this as well.
That San Diego City and Davis, I think, are the only areas that I've seen that have said that they want to implement Prop 64. And so if only 2 cities in the whole state are talking about implementation, what are we worried about? Like, why would we merge the two programs? Why wouldn't we just keep
That's
medical
the
for
worst
now?
idea.
In Prop 64, it didn't have any sort of penalties. Like, it said that they had to implement and distribute licenses by January 1st of 2018, but there's no or else, right? So let it get challenged. Let it sit in court for a couple years. I'm okay with that.
Well, absolutely.
I'm not okay with sacrificing some of the operators that I work with, to test the feds. Like, I
mean, because it's their livelihood. It's like, we were talking in our Trump episode a few weeks ago about it's going to be asset forfeiture for sure, right? And imagine you've invested this significant amount. You've had to go out and seek capital and all of that, and then boom, it's just squandered.
Like Midwest, where he got his assets seized, his wife's,
his wife,
his
his kids, like people,
college funds.
Yes, and lost the case. He didn't get jail time or prison time, but he has no money whatsoever, and he has no way to get it back. And I mean, that if that's not cause for regulation, so at least you have some sort of standing in court. And I mean, California's tough.
God, that's
you know?
so interesting.
Yeah, and unless our regulators can say that they're going to protect us from the feds and offer a solution for it, I'm not okay with implementing Prop 64 yet.
Yeah. Talk to us. This is like perfect segue into kind of your consulting business.
Yeah.
I would love for you to talk about that and, you know, what you're helping your clients with.
So I've helped, in the last year, I've helped my clients achieve 13 permits in 2 different locations for outdoor cultivation, indoor cultivation, distribution testing, volatile manufacturing, and testing. So
How hard was it?
Yeah, like what is that process?
I worked my butt off.
I bet. How long were the applications?
And just that whole, like, walk us through the process.
Each place is different,
Each one's
right?
different. Yeah, each one's different. And it's
What's your most memorable?
Yeah.
my most memorable is the first permit that I helped a grower get in Yolo County for an acre of cultivation, and then they were raided by an outer jurisdiction.
I read about this.
Tri-County task force called Trident, and who doesn't even govern that area. So we still don't even know why, and they weren't charged. They were just looking for money.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
Trident.
the California
Trident
way.
was just awarded. They were just given an award for best marijuana investigation, and they lead the state in asset forfeiture. So they seized $3 million worth of property last year. So they got an award from the high intensity drug trafficking area.
Except they don't say what the investigation entailed
the
or why they
violation.
did it.
Butane oil, butane hash oil, whatever. But
It was BHO?
yeah, it was.
Okay.
That's what they got the award for anyway. Didn't mention our guys. So, and now those clients have been charged with conspiracy to illegally sell marijuana, to illegally sell the legal marijuana that they were growing.
Oh, wow.
But the BHO part, that's...
No, I
That's
think
a
these are
different
two
one.
different
Oh,
things.
okay.
That's absurd.
It is absurd.
And so, okay, because I think a lot of people don't realize how crazy this is. Like, this is like, oh, it's legal here. You know, we get this all the time. Oh, I want to invest in California. We're like, do you know, we talk more about like just the risk of running a business and like you need to make sure that it's, you know, that local license. But how can they do that? And I guess what can we do to make sure that doesn't happen anymore?
I don't know that we could protect ourselves from, you know, these task force.
Okay.
But now, you know, so when I work with a client, typically a client will come to me and say, I want a distribution license. Where's the best place for me to go? And I'll go in and assess, you know, where I'm seeing those licenses being issued. But I just decided to add a new requirement. You know, it's going to be the cost of land, the price per square foot, the length of the application, how quickly they're moving forward. But it's also going to be the attitude of the supervisors and law enforcement.
Yeah.
I need, if law enforcement's not on board, you're going to have problems.
That's a very good thing to consider.
That's another thing we tell people that are interested in going to, you know, coming to California or investing in something in California. We're like, you have to know the local government by name, like their face. You have to be there all the time because other people are. They're fighting for their dream, for the business they already have, whatever, but they are there. You can't just
assume that you're just going to be lucky and get something.
Yeah, you're going to come in with a ton of money and like get something where people are doing that. They've been doing that for years and years, trying to work with their local government.
Yeah, I mean, you got to work hard to get what you need.
It's not.
I mean,
easy.
I easily attend three local government meetings a week. I've done 3 this week. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 in one day if I can.
Aren't they frustrating?
Some of them.
Where
Some
they
of them
don't
are so
listen to you
frustrating,
at
and then
all?
some of them are so beautiful. It's like you know, in Calaveras County, they're trying to say that there's $5 billion available at the federal level, and they can just seek that money and shut them all down. And then you go into Davis, and Davis is like, "We voted for it. Give us our weed." How long are we gonna have to wait?
We don't want to wait
It's
any longer.
crazy.
So like one keeps you going.
I'm not kidding.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
It's money.
Yeah, Prop 64 passed by almost like 70%, I think, at Davis. And so they're like, how long do we have to wait?
Like, come on.
Where's my rec shop already? Like,
I wonder if that's just what we're going to see is just like, you know, the big cities with people that are really into it that being the 10% or the 20% now, and then slowly but surely over time when they're seeing lack of revenue or something.
Yeah, the poor cities,
right?
too.
It is. But what we have to realize, too, is that even though Prop 64 passed by 57%, there's 43% out there of the population that are pissed off.
Absolutely. I got to get out of my cannabis bubble sometime. That's really good to remind me.
Prop 64 left it up to local cities and counties to do it or not.
Yeah.
They're like, you don't have to uphold the cannabis business part. Mm-hmm. So essentially, only 57% of it passed.
Right. That's so. But the good part is that they're kicking. Some are kicking and screaming and implementing the 6-plant ordinance. But it's at least starting the conversation. Yeah. You can't get around that.
Yeah.
And that's why there's 40 to 50 local meetings a week. A lot of it's just about Prop 64, but if they're talking about that, then I would, tell someone that's looking to open up their business or become legal in that area, there's your door. Get in there.
Be active.
Yeah.
The citizens have a lot
we
of
action.
We
have to be
We will
loud.
make or break it as well. I mean, of course, there's the regulators and law enforcement, but it's citizen participation that gets things done.
Yeah, and I feel like right now in this environment when so many people are upset about what's happening on a federal level, that's kind of good, right? Like that energy, if it's done well,
actually do something.
Can hopefully make action. People coming together, understanding how they collectively can do something.
Yeah.
What are you hearing against why it's bad? Like we talked about this in our first interview. Do you mind, like, when you're talking to people who are like, I can't have cannabis in my county, in my city, like, what are their biggest fears?
It's almost always about the children.
Really?
Yeah. They think.
Wow.
Yesterday I was in the Coalinga City Council meeting, and a woman that owns a ranch where children come out and ride horses was upset that a dispensary could go across the street, 1,000 feet from where children congregate.
Yeah.
And somebody asked her at one of the last meetings if she was afraid that her horses were going to get high.
That would be a weird situation.
But it's almost, I call them the what about the children people.
Yeah.
And do not underestimate them.
No. But how can you, I'm all about like figuring out, how can you motivate them and change them to say, you know what? Your children are going to be fine. How do you do that,
This morning, I read an article that said we are taking the marijuana off the streets and putting it into a regulated environment. And if you can paint that picture for them, maybe we have a better chance. I've gotten through to some people that were on the fence about regulations by saying our goal here is to take this market away from the cartels.
Exactly.
And, we can't do that unless we regulate, unless we actually can offer it at a cheaper price. So, the price has to come down.
Yeah.
We have to be able to go after this.
Definitely
it will.
Does.
Yeah, no, it's going to.
Yeah.
Well, if the counties and cities don't overtax it, because then black market will remain.
Don't get me started on taxes.
We have this on the agenda because I work, we work with startups and operating companies. I build out projections, and it is insane to see when you look at a different county what they're requiring, the difference in taxation, excise tax, and we're not even talking about the state level, right? And then if you look at that in 5 years, and we always like add in compliance and things that they should be doing, a lot of these guys will not be that profitable if they cannot manage their business right, just with the sheer cost of taxation, 280E, all of that.
Right.
Federal, state, county, city.
All of it.
So what's your opinion on the whole tax situation?
So the lead consultant that's on a roadshow right now is called HDL Companies. Yes. And if you Google David McPherson and you find out like just his background, he likes to say that he's retired from the city of Oakland, but the truth is, and there's articles out there on him,
they're starting a dispensary.
He was forced out of the city of Oakland for alleged contract fixing. So I won't go into like conspiracy theories, but there's something going on here, and I think where the real disconnect is he's consulting the local government. So he's going in and saying, how much money do you need? Marijuana can solve all of your county's problems, and so he has 4 reasons for why he has assisted in some of these egregious taxes. One is he's saying that the industry is begging for it, that they're coming in the industry's begging for it. They're broke and desperate. Their pensions are 60% underfunded, And
whose pensions?
Yeah.
the local government's pensions are 60% underfunded. So therefore, it's marijuana's, job to solve that problem.
Wow.
But I can't remember what.
Maybe their pension shouldn't be so high. California.
And then his fourth reason was that he's advising them on a certain amount, and they're taking it and going higher. So he thinks he's complicit in it, and I don't. The approach has to change. You can't. He kept saying pain point. He was on a panel recently, and he kept saying, trying to figure out where the pain point is with each local government. Well,
dude, the pain points are there in a deficit.
No, but that model is broken.
Yeah.
You can't go to the government and say, how much money do you need? You have to go to the industry and say, how much can you afford?
Yeah, how much can you tolerate?
Right. And so it's an issue because his estimates are that the legal market needs 980 licensed growers, 980 acres of licensed cultivation. That's HDL's estimate. And his estimate is that we're already at 700. So if we're already at 700 and there's only 280 to go, then it's only these people that are setting up in these areas that are taxing it as high as they are. And I love to talk about the Monterey County issue because Monterey County and 4 cities inside it all passed very similar taxes that HDL consulted on. It starts at $15 a square foot, and it goes up to $25 a square foot over the next 5 years. It's in stages. And not only that, but they're taxing distribution, testing, manufacturing, each step along the way, 5%, and that graduates to 10% over the next 5 years.
Wow.
When the price of a pound is anticipated to come down, these taxes are going up. And the only way to fix that is to go back to the ballot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and then distribution adds on pieces.
Of the lab testing and all that kind of stuff. But, this is, why Washington State failed is they tried the tier taxation and it didn't work. It ended up, completely adding this egregious price to the end consumer or the end patient. So that's, I'm just thinking, from 15 a square foot, what's the average square foot of these operators?
22,000 square feet.
That's insane. Plus the excise tax and 280, they're all going to go out of business. I can tell you, because I've ran these models, and it's going up to 25. Okay, so
that's, and
we don't really work with we haven't worked with anybody in Monterey. I had no idea about this.
I've heard of in SoCal somewhere, $50 per square foot of cultivation tax.
And see, that's the problem. So
I think that's the highest.
The problem is that now neighboring cities or anywhere, they only see 25. They see that Monterey County is taxing it and it's going to go up to 25. Let's start at 25 and let's go up to 45.
Oh, holy
that was San Jacinto. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But it's horrible because if you think about it from a macro level, what's that going to do? It's going to force black market. Exactly. That we know federal agents are going to come in and it's going to cause chaos, and then we're going to backfire completely. And I don't even know what the solution. That's
the problem.
The game changer is LA City and LA County.
Yeah,
and their taxes are very reasonable. Yep. They're only looking at 1% to 2% of different types, and that's going to change the whole game.
Oh, but fantastic! And that passed.
And we're gonna, so over the next few years, you're gonna start to see a statistical tax arbitrage game going on.
Wow.
But what scares me is, some of these desperate cities that are now setting up all of these businesses, do they become ghost towns when the marijuana business up and leaves because they can go to LA County now and only pay 2%?
Where a lot of our, the LA operators that are just I want to build something or get something are going to these areas just because they want to get a license when...
Well, remember, what was that city where they had so much tax evasions and all the people in the government got charged for...
Adelanto?
No, but close to there. But everyone, I think California has the most overpaid city and county legislators in the country. And really $6 million for the head of the LA DWP guy, or these crazy annual salaries. And why wouldn't they get all crazy with this new tax they can put on these people when that's kind of how businesses or the government works in California? Is they're greedy.
Well, I think that's relevant for any businesses. Like, you see successful businesses realizing that they need to focus on core values and build a solution to something, and they're successful for the long run. Then you see people, trying to create this quick fix of a market demand or get bought out really quick or just do something not unethical, but just not, I guess, in the concept of the long run. And it seems like some of these counties are doing that.
Well, and when they're padding their pockets, that's money they're not putting into the community and the services and the infrastructure, which is the whole point. Like, you can raise a ton of tax money and then give it to yourself, and no one will be any better, including the city or county. Because it's not just about how much tax money, it's how you spend the tax money for the city.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have to actually invest it into the services instead of just taking it, which seems like a lot of these places are like, oh, we're going to get so rich, but what are you going to do to improve your city?
Yeah, and hopefully it'll be like indirect jobs and all of that, but that's such a good point. In Sweden, you get, like, on your tax return, you know exactly where all your money went.
Really?
Yeah, and, clearly in the United States, we pay our taxes. Taxes are about to be due. But we don't know where it goes.
Portland has an art tax.
Oh, I got taxed. I don't live in Portland, but I'm from Portland, and I received, like, this notice in the mail that I was, like, past due on my art tax in Portland.
What's your art tax?
I don't know. It's like to
priorities. At least you know where your taxes go in Portland to art.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, that is just really insane. So, I guess, we're right now in March 2017. What do you think is going to happen in this next, before we're all thinking, we have to get ready for 2018?
By September, right?
Yeah.
So I was talking
September
to
LA.
I was talking to Chief Salvador of Coalinga last night, who, poor guy, he gets teased because he's progressive about regulating. He gets it. He wants to take down the bad guys with the regulated money, but he's kind of on his own. He said that we need to pay attention to the budget, the federal budget, and October is the time where if we see that they're going to be giving money to the feds, that's when we know we're going to have a problem. So if I said, okay, so that gives me October, November, and December to make as much noise at the Capitol as possible, saying I'm not ready for Prop 64, because if that's the case, we're going to have big problems, and they wouldn't, they just, you don't want to do this.
No.
I don't, I don't want to sacrifice my operators. I kind of like them.
Well, and medical cannabis in general, which is another problem when Washington got rid of medical cannabis and went fully recreational. Not only were they taxing it a lot, but then the patients had to start paying the tax and then getting limited dosing. You could only get 100 milligrams of THC in rec, where it was 1,000 in the medical. Oh. So not only are they having to pay way more, they're getting way less because it was easier for the government to just merge the two. Yeah. And that's my fear with Prop 64 is it's going to merge with MRSA, and then everyone is going to be paying a lot more.
I think we're going to be paying a lot more regardless if they do merge, but I think merging them makes sense. Otherwise, if you have a medical license to grow, now you have to find a medical distributor to distribute it in a medical dispensary in order to, and that could be problematic.
I wish we just stayed medical
for a while, just to figure it out. Yeah. Well, so what do you think those two will be? I guess nobody has a crystal ball at all. And clearly the federal government now is a little bit scarier. But how do you think those two would be blended together? Because imagine 2018 right now is hitting, people want to apply for a state license, right? And they're going to be forced to do that. How would that work with a medical and then an adult use license? Like, do you foresee, if people wanted to go forward and October is not scary, that somebody would go apply for a medical license as well as an adult use license?
What do you recommend?
Yeah,
there's 45 bills that have been introduced at the state level.
What?
45.
Regarding...
Yeah, talking about what?
Regarding medical or recreational?
All of it. And so...
Like amending
like you said,
things?
I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
And it could go in either direction. But, the definition of a patient is going to be someone that has their county card. And that's not.
Yep, time to register with the state.
Yeah.
Goodbye rights of privacy.
And still that only exempts you from sales tax.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Wow. I think we're going to have you on the show a little bit more often.
Yeah,
I think that's
seriously.
because it's like, you know.
You'll be our correspondent.
Yeah, could you be our like, band correspondent?
Yeah.
You know, I just applied for the Bureau of Medical Cannabis Regulations Advisory Committee. I don't even really think I have a shot at getting it, but I threw my hat in the ring just in case, because I have all this information. Like, someone needs to listen to me.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, let the people doing all the footwork have a say.
Yeah.
You know, at a larger level.
Yeah, we're interviewing BMCR next week.
Yeah.
Gosh, I forget his name right now. Not Lori Ajax, but somebody else on the team. So we're going to ask everybody if they have Alex think.
Traverso.
Good memory.
Oh my god,
nice.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I'm
good memory.
So proud of myself.
But we're going to be asking, and I'd love to get everyone's questions that we can ask them, because I remember going to the regulatory meeting that they had at Loyola in like October of 2016, and they didn't seem like they had a lot of answers for us.
You better be prepared.
I know. We're going to send them our questions before.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the speed round?
Sure.
All right.
Okay, so if someone is just getting into the industry, what is something they should know?
You are going to need to money up, lawyer up, and paper up.
Yeah, that's a great way to put. That's a bumper sticker.
Yep.
Money
Oh
up,
my
lawyer
god.
up, paper up.
Oh.
And the paper up part is part of, you know, just getting everything ready for your applications, but it's also, in order to be compliant with 215, you still need all these recommendations, and then, you know, so money up.
Compliance.
Yep. That is a bumper. You need to like get that as like that's going to be actually the title of this episode.
Oh my God.
That's a perfect title for
The
this
first
episode.
question I always ask a new client is, how much money do you have?
Yeah.
Amen.
And but it's so true.
It limits my options.
Yeah,
You
it
know, where
limits
can I
theirs too.
Where can I tell you where to go? How much money do you have?
Yep.
Yeah.
You gotta pay to play.
Yeah, that's what we're in right now, unfortunately. Yeah. But, you know, we have to evolve, and I want to put a stop to HDL because I feel like that company is actually creating a new market instead of bringing the unregulated market into regulations. Yeah. That's my fear. We're not doing anything to go after the black market by creating a new market and creating such high barriers to entry.
Yeah, work with the industry we already have.
Yeah. So, but, you know, in Yolo County, somebody submitted a site plan on a paper towel. I mean,
wow.
So,
but that makes sense. You've been underground forever. You want to apply for a license. You might not have realized.
But
have you ever thought of writing on a paper towel?
No.
Let alone giving it to.
I'm trying to play devil's advocate. But you're right. Yeah, I'm always trying to be an optimist, but
that's a little ridiculous.
If you had a lawyer, I don't think they would have let you do that.
No, exactly. Lawyer up. Yeah.
Yeah.
You kill it. You know, I've been impressed with you since I've got to meet you the first time, and then I didn't even realize that, Kristen, you were so close.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a leader, what motivates you to keep on going?
Especially with the band.
I think I'm nosy. I want to know everything. I put 900 miles on my car yesterday.
Wow.
So I can be everywhere. Like, that's what I do.
Yeah.
We need people like you.
I'm nosy. I want to be as informed as possible. Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power, Einstein.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
And you do something with your knowledge, which I like even better, because knowledge is power. And then what are you doing with that?
Two of my Facebook members today from two different parts of the state met on an airplane. And we're both talking about how they're such big fans of California City and County Bandwatch. Getting a message like that,
Jackie.
you know, I'm sitting next to so-and-so. I go, who's so-and-so? And she's like, he's a member of your group. And we were just talking about how much we love your group. She goes, I just flew to Chicago and, you know, wherever they flew. And I'm like, that is so crazy. Two members meet and, you know, are talking about how much they love it.
That's so cool.
You know, I've had attorneys tell me that they, you know, follow two news sources. And one is, you know, Reddit and the other is your group. Right?
Yeah, that's
like spot on.
Yeah, you provide an incredibly valuable resource. Because bands, that's what's going to prevent you from functioning, you know, as a business in the industry.
But it might be
time. And
time.
there's so many.
Yeah, it might be time to change the title
to
what California City and County Regulation Watch.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Because it is changing.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, where do you see medical and recreational cannabis a year from now?
Oh,
If that isn't a difficult question.
it's going to take 10 years to get this working properly and get all the bugs worked out of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I feel you.
Yeah.
And to hear from you, okay, it's even more confirmed.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, anything else you want to say?
Or promote.
We'll link your show note. Like, we create show notes, so all that's like on our website. We'll link to, your band group, to your website, so people can contact you. Any final words for our listeners?
Get involved.
Absolutely.
Do not wait for someone to do that for you. I love the saying, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Oh, I like that.
That's really good.
You're good with these quotes.
I didn't create that one. I think I stole that from Steph Scher of Americans for Safe Access, but I love it.
I love it too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
You're
I
welcome.
really, really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks, girls.
Yeah.
Seeing you again.
Thank
Yeah.
you. So that was a really fun conversation with Jackie.
Yeah, she's great. I met her. I was bartending at a Weed Maps event for Coachella last year, and she was there too with Susan Torres from CARE. And we were like, it was like a battle of being in the dirt, like hot 12, 16-hour days, serving all of the different artists coming from Coachella to the Weed Maps thing. And
Wow.
every time I'd wake up, she'd be up in bed really early in the morning, just going through all the different bands. Like anything that's going on legislatively in California, she's processing it, putting it out there for everybody to be aware of it. And it was good talking with her today to see, like, how do you continue to do that every day when it can be so difficult?
She's driven, though. I mean, she's like one
It's
of the
her
most
passion.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when you're a medical patient, and what goes on actually affects your health, your access to medicine in the first place. More than anything, that's an excellent way to go.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps her going too.
Absolutely. So what was your one takeaway from this?
I had two takeaways.
Tell me.
The first one is law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
As we tell everybody that approaches us that wants to open up a business in California, you need to get to know the local city, county government officials by name. They should know your face. You need to be active at all of these different meetings because those are the people that will take precedence. But even if you do all of that, if the law enforcement is not feeling it, they will block you.
Well, and that's what's been happening with her. And, like, law enforcement, and then also the city council people, right? And, like, how she was mentioning, like, there was, like, a new city council person that was, having a very archaic conversation about cannabis.
So it's all down to government and enforcement, which it always has been.
Yeah.
The only difference now is we passed something as a proposition, as the voters enacted something, Prop 64, that actually enables the law enforcement and the city councils to be even more light or heavy-handed with cannabis.
Yeah, and from her, I mean, what I got from it, I think this is going to be your second point, is Prop 64. And if you're in California, and if you're thinking about going for a license, do you go after that medical license or do you go after that adult use license? Because by the state, those things are happening at the same time. And
the federal government is really only doing, for the most part, the saber rattling against recreational cannabis.
From what we know.
Yeah. Well, from what we hear, what's on the news is they barely recognize it has a medical purpose, but they absolutely do not understand or agree with recreational cannabis at all. So if we can just put Prop 64 implementation off by at least 6 months and give the state a chance to put in regulation under the Medical Cannabis Act, that would be better than trying to do them both at once and, God forbid, turning one into the other into a big monster and making it gray as it already is.
Yep, and just waiting to see what the federal government does, right? We're right now in March of 2017. We've got time. She said for her, it's October. Like, they'd be able to figure out in October, like,
the government funding.
Yes.
Where, if all of a sudden the DEA gets a fat infusion of cash.
Look into that. Yeah.
Then it's time to really be concerned.
Yes, because the DEA is not going after like the immigration or anything like that. That is drug enforcement. So that's a way for, this is from a data junkie to another data junkie to another data junkie myself.
Exactly.
It's like, you guys really need to be paying attention to what's happening, reading the news, making sure that whatever blogs or articles that you're reading
check your sources.
Yes, I was going to say have references to sources that are, documents. And I'm actually subscribed to the White House right now, and they're on a crazy campaign. I get daily updates on what's happening. It goes to my spam box right now.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't deal with it. I just draw the line at cannabis right now because the rest of it's so freaking overwhelming that at least this will affect me, like, firsthand. That's all I can handle right now.
Yeah, and that's all, this week, be laser focused in your business, so that's the best thing.
Yep, absolutely. So, great interview with Jackie McGowan of Band-Aid Consulting.
And we'll put everything in the show notes. So thank you guys so much for listening to Cannabis Business Minds, and we'll see you next week. Cannabis Business Minds is recorded by Simone Samaluka-Radzins and Kristen Yoder. Produced and edited by Gustavo Bogac at East Venice Recording Studios. Podcast music is by Ketza. You can find more episodes of the show on our website, liv-consulting.com, and you can also subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.